The stories in this YouTube channel will help you in your study of English. You can understand them if you know the 200 words most often used in the English language at the elementary level. But first, you already know what to do. Subscribe and enjoy this video. The Emperor's New Clothes. Many years ago there lived an emperor who cared more for new clothes than for anything else in the world. He had a coat for every hour of the day. And just as they say of a king, he is in council, they said of the emperor, he is in the dressing room. One day two cheats came to the city. They said that they were weavers, and that they could weave the finest cloth anyone had ever seen. Their colors and patterns, they said, were the most beautiful in the world. A wonderful cloth. There was something else about the cloth, they said, even more interesting than the colors and the patterns. Clothes made of the cloth could not be seen by anyone who not fit for his office or who was hopelessly stupid. Those would be wonderful clothes, thought the emperor. When I put them on, I could find out which men in my empire are not fit for their offices. I would know which men are clever and which are stupid. Yes, the cloth must be woven for me at once. The emperor gave the cheats money so that they could begin their work at once. They put up 2 looms and pretended to be weaving. But they had nothing at all on their looms. They demanded the finest silk and the best gold for their weaving. This they kept for themselves, and worked at the empty looms until late at night. I should like to know how much they have woven, thought the emperor. Then he remembered that those who were not fit for their offices could not see the cloth. He believed that he had nothing to fear for himself, but still he wanted someone else to look at the cloth first. I will send my honest old minister, thought the emperor. He can tell me how the cloth looks, for he is not a stupid man. The first minister. Now the good old minister went where the 2 cheats sat working at the empty looms. God help me, thought the old minister, opening his eyes wide. I can't see anything at all on the looms, but he did not say this. The cheats told him to come nearer. Are not the colors and patterns beautiful? They asked. They pointed to the empty looms, and the poor minister went on opening his eyes wider and wider. But he could see nothing, for there was nothing to see. God, save me, thought he. Can I really be so stupid? Am I not fit for my office? No one must know this. No, I must never say that I can't see the cloth. Do you say nothing about the cloth? Ask the weavers. The ministers answer. Oh, it's beautiful. Quite wonderful, looking closely at the looms. What a fine pattern and what colors. Yes, I shall tell the emperor that I am very pleased with it. Then the weavers named the colors and explained the pattern. The minister listened carefully so that he could tell the emperor how the cloth looked. And he did tell the emperor. Now the cheats asked for more silk and gold, which they said they needed for weaving. They kept all of it for themselves, and continued to work at the empty looms. The emperor soon sent another honest minister to see how the weaving was going, and if the cloth would soon be ready. Like the first minister, he looked and looked at the empty looms, but he could see nothing. Is not that pretty cloth? Asked the cheats, and they pointed to the pattern which was not there at all. I am not stupid, thought the man. It must be that I am not fit for my good office. I must not let anyone know that I can't see the cloth. So he praised the cloth, which he did not see, the wonderful colors, and the beautiful pattern. Yes, it's quite beautiful, he told the emperor. Soon all the people of the city were talking of the cloth. All knew about its power, and all wanted to see how unfit or how stupid their neighbors were. The emperor wished to see the cloth himself while it was still on the looms. He went with the two ministers who had already been there. "Is that not beautiful?" said the two old ministers. "Does not your majesty like the pattern and the colors?" And they pointed to the empty looms, for they thought that the others could see the cloth. "What's this?" thought the emperor. "I can see nothing at all. Am I stupid? Am I unfit to be emperor? That would be a terrible thing." "Oh, it's very pretty," he said at last to his ministers. "It pleases me greatly," and he nodded and looked at the empty looms, for he would not say that he saw nothing. Praising the cloth. All his ministers looked, and like the emperor, they said, "That is pretty." Then they told the emperor that he should have new clothes made of the wonderful cloth, and wear them at the great public procession soon to take place. Everywhere there was great happiness, and the emperor gave the cheats the title of weavers to the emperor. The whole night before the procession was to take place, the cheats were up, finishing the emperor's new clothes. The people could see them hard at work. They pretended to take the cloth down from the looms. They pretended to cut the cloth, and they pretended to sew. And at last they said, "Now the clothes are ready." The emperor came with his ministers, and the two cheats held up their arms as if holding something, and said, "Here are the clothes. They are as light as air. One would think one had nothing on, but that is the wonder of them." "Yes," said the ministers, but they could not see anything, for nothing was there. The new clothes. "Will your majesty please undress?" asked the cheats. "Then we will put the new clothes on you here in front of the great mirror." The emperor undressed, and the cheats pretended to put each new piece of clothing on him. The emperor turned round and round before the mirror. "Oh, how well they fit you! How beautiful!" said all. "The procession is ready to start," said one of the ministers. "Well, I am ready," answered the emperor. "Do the clothes really fit me quite well?" And he turned again to the mirror as if he were looking at his new clothes with great interest. "Ready to go." The ministers who were to carry the train pretended that they were taking it up from the floor. They feared that someone might find out that they could see nothing. The emperor went in the procession, and everyone in the streets praised his new clothes. "How beautiful," they said. "How well everything fits him." No one would let anyone know that he could see nothing, for that would have meant that he was not fit for his office or was very stupid. No clothes of the emperor had ever pleased so many people as these. "But he has nothing on," a little child cried out at last. "Do not listen to the child," said the father, and he tried to keep his child from saying anything more. But one person told another what the child had said. "He has nothing on," said all the people at last. This moved the emperor deeply, for it seemed to him that the people were right. He thought to himself, "But I must continue with the procession. And the ministers held on harder than ever, carrying the train, which was not there at all. That's all folks, see you in the next video. Bye bye.